Masterpiece Women, welcome to our podcast today. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Tina Raines. I'm the founder of Masterpiece Women podcast and community, a community of women who are focused on impacting the marketplace for Christ and really making a great impact and growing to be the best version of ourselves in order to make a big difference in the world. So welcome. Today, our guest speaker is Debra Savage, and we're so excited to have her. She has such an inspirational story of hope. So Debra, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tina. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here today with you. And I really hope our audience gets a lot of great, valuable information to take with them.
Thank you. So, Debra, tell everybody who's listening, our listeners today, tell them a little bit about who is Debra Savage and what is the story of hope that you'd like to get out to the world?
Okay. Well, my story began about 9 years ago, where I had failed back surgery and I was in pain 24/7, which was very difficult to live with. And they wanted to do further surgery on me at that time, and I refused and sought out alternative methods. But the reason I started this journey is I realized how many people, other than myself, were really suffering in chronic pain, just going around in circles, finding it very difficult to get the care they need. And in prayer, one day, I felt like the Lord said to me, I have prepared you your entire life for this ministry, and you need to now turn your mess into your message. And that's what I've decided to do, to help other people, to reach out and help other people, to let them know that there is hope, regardless of your diagnosis. There is hope, regardless of the chronic pain you're dealing with every day, that you can move forward and regain your life. It may be a life reimagined, but you can regain your life.
I love that. You know, it's so crazy how God works. I literally was just walking with a girlfriend of mine this weekend, yesterday, and she was sharing, she has had chronic pain for 4 years. And she literally, there's some days she can't even sit. She had a kind of botched surgery, botched hemorrhoid surgery is what it was, what it amounted to. And she's had multiple surgeries trying to fix it and couldn't fix it. She had gone to, to the beach to just relax because she was so stressed and so much pain. One thing led to another. It's become her ministry. She literally goes to the beach every day and she ends up sharing Jesus. She collects rocks and she writes their name on them. She prays for these people every day. She shares Jesus. And she was just sharing with me how beautiful it was that here what the enemy meant for destruction, Genesis 50:20, right?
Exactly.
And I think of you, Debra, as you're saying that, I'm like, now you're doing great things with the very thing that the enemy meant for destruction for you. Share a little bit about the hope of what you're able to do with other women and how you're inspiring them through their pain.
Well, I help them. I start with helping them out emotionally, because people don't realize very often that some of their pain could be a result of emotional issues, whether you've suffered from PTSD, you've been traumatized, you've had an accident. There are so many things that can affect you physically that are actually caused by your emotions. So that's what I start with. That's the focus I start with. And I found that in my own life, when I deal with my mind, and mind control, in refocusing my attention to becoming more positive, that my pain is reduced considerably. So there is a great connection between them.
Wow, I love that.
What I teach.
That's awesome. And you have a Facebook group, and is that like a support group for people who are struggling with pain? Is that what you utilize it? How do you use your Facebook group?
It is a support group to help people who are suffering in chronic pain. And my group is considerably different than most of the other pain groups out there. I want people in my group who are really serious and committed to getting well, because there's a lot involved and you have to be dedicated to the process. A lot of the other groups are just really platforms for complaining and just commiserating off of each other. I have tried to focus more on education, on training. I provide workshops like on self-care. I just did a workshop on how to find joy in the midst of suffering, because even though we're suffering, life is going on around us. And we can't just, it's not healthy to separate ourselves from that. So these are the type of principles that I try to work with.
Awesome. That is so important. I know when you're those darkest seasons, that's when you really have to focus from within, right? Because happiness is external. And when you're in pain, you're not very happy.
That's right.
But when you're in pain, you can still be full of joy. And whether it's emotional pain, it's physical pain, it is definitely, I will say, the more you research, and I know we were just talking about before we even hopped on this podcast, you know, the more you research how much your brain has to do with the rest of your body, your emotions, the stress levels, the trauma. As a matter of fact, I just did a podcast, a recording with Dr. Porter. He is a top neuroscientist and inventor of our brain technology. And he was sharing with me that, you know, we've had incredible results with PTSD, with pain, et cetera, lots of great things. One of the things that was interesting, he said, you know, we talk about how we're helping these kids with autism, and some of these kids end up in these incredible results using the brain technology. He goes, but the moms, we recognize that the moms are suffering from PTSD. Like, they've had a traumatic result, and some of them end up having physical ailments that oftentimes, you know, when you think about people that walk through PTSD, and he and I didn't have this conversation, I'm just adding to this, right? People who walk through PTSD often have physical symptoms that are manifested from it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This has been a real awakening for me, because last year I was diagnosed with PTSD and I was in shock. I grew up with 2 loving parents. There was no abuse in the house. And I'm saying, how did this occur? Well, in analyzing I'm the type of person that when something happens, I just put it behind me and move forward. But in analyzing my whole life, I realized how much medical trauma I had to deal with. And it accumulates in your body, and it does present itself as physical symptoms.
It really does.
Quite a learning experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Lord is so wise, isn't he? He created our bodies and our minds just so perfect to heal themselves, to know what to do in certain, right? But I think oftentimes we don't give our bodies and our minds the credit where credit's due. And that's where, and nothing against medicine, because I'm a nurse. I believe in medicine, but I do believe that if we can get our minds right, a huge portion of it comes from there. If we can get our brains, our neuroplasticity in the right energy, then the healing comes from there as well. And God created our brains that way. So it is pretty fascinating. So talk to me about the spiritual journey during that, Deb. When you're walking through this pain, you're walking through PTSD, you're walking through a lot of trauma. How did you maintain your relationship with the Lord? What did you do to really seek that joy?
Okay, during those very difficult times, I found my joy by really retraining my brain, teaching myself how to focus on gratitude rather than the lack in my life. I wake up every morning now and I praise God for the new day. I thank him for the sleep I had last night and the healing he's providing for my body. And that's how I get through it. I found through this journey, and this is how God uses certain instances, that it's brought me a lot closer to him. This journey has brought me so much closer to the Lord. And it really has, it's been an incredible journey with him. It really has.
Even through the midst of chronic pain, through the midst of all of that.
Exactly.
I love how God uses it all. What the enemy meant for destruction, then God uses for his glory. Here you are glorifying the Lord, and you're sharing hope. Like, in the midst of all this pain, there's hope.
Exactly.
And there's redemption for the lost. I really believe that when you think about pain and the time that it has taken away from you, there's so much time and different things that it steals from you, right? The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I believe that health issues do that to us. And there's different ways the enemy comes and tries to do it. But then God always, he says he's going to use it for his glory. For those who love him, who are in him, he is going to continue the good work he started. And no ploy the enemy has is going to thwart that. That's, his promise to us, right? And so
Absolutely.
Thank you that you're sharing that hope and what you do. And so tell me a little bit about, you've been very authentic in sharing your struggle. How has that impacted your ability to really reach other people by you sharing your story, being authentic about your pain and your suffering?
Well, I think people in the pain community have a tendency to isolate themselves and just to feel like they're all alone with nobody by their side. I am reaching out there, telling people that there is hope, that there is somebody like me walking by their side that can help them through this very difficult process. And it's not, we need doctors, of course, in the medical community. But unfortunately, right now, in the fractured society, medical system we're in, nobody's looking at the whole picture. And nobody is evaluating the entire body. And that's been a major problem. So we need people such as myself, like health coaches, to put the whole being together. We look at the physical issues, we look at the emotional issues, we look at the environmental issues that could be impacting your life, we look at social issues. There are many aspects within a person's life that have to be evaluated to see what is causing their pain and what could be addressed. And unfortunately, the doctors, of course, are not going to have the time to do that.
Yeah, there's some out there that will, I would say that, but there's very few. And, when you think about it, one of the things that I'm seeing more and more and more that is hindering that is that oftentimes their reimbursements now are so much lower than they used to be. They're having to see 5 patients to make the same amount of money they used to make on one. So there's so many different reasons why our health system could use improvement. And not beating up on doctors. I have a lot of friends who are doctors, and they have such big hearts to serve and such big hearts to help their patients. And one of my girlfriends told me, she goes, Tina, she goes, when I get a new patient, she goes, this is why I quit taking new patients. I want to know them. I want to understand what's going on with them because I'm now responsible for their health. I spend 45 minutes or so getting to know everything about them.
That's
and
so
oftentimes I'll get reimbursed $40. 8 years of medical school and hundreds and thousands of dollars in student loans to get $40. So she's like, I just don't take new patients anymore because I don't want to not serve them well, but I also don't want to make $40 reimbursement,
Which
so
is understandable.
It's a difficult time for both the medical world and I'm praying that we have some fixing of that. And
Absolutely.
Candidly, one of the things that I've gotten really passionate about, especially recently, and I will give them a plug because they are one of our sponsors, is Impact Health Sharing. They're like a MediShare, but on steroids. It's a health sharing program where people come together, they pray together, they help each other in community, and they serve each other. And it's a whole different concept. And they can go to the doctors that they feel confident about because they basically get reimbursed for it at a much better scenario. So for those of you looking for a good healthcare plan, make sure you look at Impact Health Sharing. So I will plug them, and not to mention they're just beautiful people. They have such a heart to change the world as well. So tell me, Debra, when you started your coaching business, what prompted you to start doing actual coaching?
I feel it was a necessity because people who are in this difficult situation really need the one-on-one care. They need the one-on-one accountability. And they need somebody to walk by their side. They're lost in the system and they need somebody to walk by their side to help them to become a more empowered patient. I can't heal them. I can't, prescribe medications, but I can show them methods to help them get through this journey. I
love that. It's so needed because when someone's in chronic pain, it just completely disrupts their life. That's beautiful. So in the midst of that, you're a coach, but you're a compassionate coach. You should be the compassionate coach. That's what I'm going to call you.
I do have a lot of compassion for these people.
I bet. Well, you know what? It's like, that's what God does, right? He allows us to walk through it so we get it, because this group of people needs help. And unfortunately, fortunately, he allows us to walk through something so we can help them. Exactly. I hear that every day. A woman who was abused, now they're passionate about helping the abused. I was that girl. I was abused. Gave me a passion for human trafficking and child molestation because what I experienced as a child, none of it's wasted. God doesn't waste any of it or any of those tears. So he's so good. He is. And sometimes it's painful to walk through it though. And but he has a purpose and a plan for it all, which is such a beautiful thing. And when you keep that in your mind as you're walking through it, it does give you hope. And when you really know how much he loves you, that you are his sweet daughter or sweet son, that he loves you so much, he would not allow this to happen to you, just like he wouldn't have allowed it to happen to Jesus Christ on the cross. If there wasn't a much bigger plan, you can hold on to that hope and you can take that next step and that next step and that next step until you get to the light at that end of that tunnel, whatever that might be for you. So tell me a little bit about your business building. What was like that best piece of advice somebody gave you when you launched your business? And, were there mistakes you made that you learned greatly from? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I realized as I went through the business that you cannot do this on your own. There are too many pieces, too many parts, and you do need help to move forward in it. So thank goodness I was able to hire a coach. I have a virtual assistant who works with me, and the process has become a lot easier.
Excellent. Yeah, that's invaluable. I could not do it without having my VAs.
Absolutely.
There's too much. It is, especially when you're on social media now. So what would be that piece of advice that you'd give the women out there that might be looking to build a business? Like, what would that hope be?
To reach out and find people to be by your side, to nurture you and coach you along the way. Take it one step at a time. I think at the beginning, I jumped in too fast and I really didn't know the process of this type of business. So do your research, take it one step at a time, and have a team around you that is really going to support you through the whole process.
I love that. Well, I think that that's invaluable because even coaches need great coaches. So I have my coach and I would not want to do anything without the coaches that I have that support me. I have a couple of them, actually. I have one for my health and wellness business, and then I have my coaching coach. And then I have another coach that I'm actually getting certified as a Dr. Cialdani's influence training to be able to help people learn how to really influence other people ethically. So you've always got to keep learning, keep growing. If you're going to really add the best value to people. So that's a great piece of advice, Debra. And one of the things and I have to be careful because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm selling to them, but I want you to listen to our podcast. I just did Dr. David Porter. It's going to come out in the next week or two. And he actually talked about their research in Brazil, how being able to change the neuroplasticity of your brain allowed these patients to have more pain relief than opioids did. That's huge.
That is huge.
Huge for chronic pain.
Huge.
And so I want you to listen to that. And yes, I do represent the company. I'm one of their executive leaders, but it's not about a sale. because I don't make a fortune on those.
Right.
I just think everybody needs one because of that. And so I'm going to share that link with you. Follow Masterpiece Women, ladies, so you can hear that, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain, and get with Debra. You know, if you want a support group of women who are also dealing with those issues, join her support group, join the community, because community is imperative. And when you have like-minded people that are focused on growing and supporting each other through it, you can change anything and deal with anything you're dealing with in your life. So I really want to encourage you to connect with Debra if you're dealing with chronic pain, and connect with me if you are, and I will share the research on how our brain technology has the research from it. It's unbelievable. So ladies, thank you for being with us today. Debra, what would you leave the ladies with as the last token of helping them to grow personally or professionally?
That just take it, like I said, one step at a time. And when you're going through the process, focus a lot on self-care because it can be very, very grueling starting up this type of business. So focus on self-care, have a great group around you to support you, and just take it one step at a time, research each process, and move through it as seamlessly as you can with help by your side.
There you go. That's great advice. All right. Well, ladies, don't forget to register for our Masterpiece Women Retreat, November 2nd through the 5th at Hutchinson Island. And I apologize if yesterday when I mentioned it, not yesterday, on the last podcast, I said the 3rd. So that was incorrect. Look at our website. Look at the dates on the website. Those are correct. And it's at Hutchinson Island Marriott Resort. It's going to be a phenomenal time. We're going to dig deep into our purposes and have a lot of time with the Lord, have a lot of interaction and a lot of downtime. I know you ladies are super busy. You don't want another conference that you have 2,000 water hoses pouring in. You want to really relax and rejuvenate. This will be a perfect time for you. So come join us. And we look forward to having you on the next Masterpiece Women podcast. Debra, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It was great to be here.
It's great having you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.